Hello everyone, bonjour tout le monde. Je suis Armel Yara, je suis le lead de TensorFlow User Group Abidjan. Je suis aujourd'hui en compagnie de Sarah El Ateif. Et elle nous vient du Maroc. Elle est lead aussi de TensorFlow User Group Casablanca. Elle est Google Developer Expert Machine Learning et elle est aussi Google PhD Philo à NCR. Aussi, aujourd'hui, notre thème, c'est sur le machine learning dans le domaine de la santé. Alors, donc, le texte sera, elle va parler en anglais, bien sûr. Si vous avez des questions, vous pouvez les poser en français ou en anglais, peu importe, elle pourra répondre. Aussi, nous vous disons bonne arrivée. Merci de partager, en fait, l'événement à ceux qui sont déjà pour ceux qui ne sont pas encore là. Bienvenue à Louis qui nous rejoint. Hi, Louis. Sarah, welcome. Thank you very much to join us and accepted our invitation to speak about machine learning in healthcare. And we are very happy to speak with you and to speak about machine learning. And our community, TensorFlow User Group Abidjan, is based in Abidjan and Cote d'Ivoire. So we work with people to provide them some resources in TensorFlow and machine learning, something like that. And you have Louis Jaffet Kwasi, is Google Developer Group Cloud Abidjan lead. We have Louis with us, and thank you very much. Thank you very much. And now you can start your presentation and introduce yourself. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you very much. So, hello everyone, and good morning. My name is Sarah Latif, and like Armel said, I am a TFUG Casablanca leader. And sorry, can you please, Armel, pop up my slides if you can, please? Thank you very much. So, just quickly, like Armel already said, I am a Google Developer Expert and a Google PhD Fellow in Machine Learning. And I am pursuing my PhD at NCS. This is like my third year. And I work on multimodality learning for different diseases diagnosis. If you're curious about that, you can you can ask me later, or you can pop it in the questions box and I will answer what it is. But for now, let me just get started with the presentation. So let's get to it. So let's talk about AI for healthcare, opportunities and challenges. So I actually choose AI because AI is the hugest field, and then the other two are just like part of it. So what I'm going to do is just I'm going to very broadly introduce what AI is. I will be talking about the global health challenges, why do we even need AI to help? And then I will be very briefly mentioning the most popping up, health use cases that you will see in the
Hi,
industry.
Sarah.
Yeah.
You have a second voice in your.
Can you hear me now clearly? Now?
Your presentation.
Mm-hmm. You can?
Yeah, actually, it's good. You have emotes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's right.
Apologies.
Let's
Seems
go.
like with the headphones it doesn't seem to work out well. Okay. So briefly, I will be presenting today AI for healthcare. I'll be tackling opportunities and challenges. We will be just briefly going over what AI is, why we need to use AI, which means like the global health challenges we face and how AI can help us. We will we will talk about the main use cases, and then I will expose some examples on how AI is used in healthcare. Then we will be mentioning technical and ethical challenges, and then we will, wrap up. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box. So let's first introduce what artificial intelligence is. So, artificial intelligence, as I told you before, is like the huge field, the one that encompasses the machine learning and deep learning one. So, you can think of artificial intelligence as a set of techniques and algorithms, which aim is to make the machines, our laptop, anything that isn't a human intelligence or, or any kind of other intelligence, think and act like humans. So, briefly, what we really want is to replicate how humans think, but obviously, we want to augment it. Like, we want it to be faster, we want a better memory, we want available on the spot whenever we want, however we want it. So that's the goal that we wish to get from artificial intelligence. Now let's talk about the subsets of artificial intelligence, which are machine learning and then deep learning. So machine learning is part of the huge field, which is artificial intelligence. And what it does is that it enables machines to improve their learning and perform tasks with experience. What do we mean by experience? It means by actually gathering data, trying to figure out a pattern in this data, and then applying that pattern to figure out what's next. That means like predicting something for you, extracting insights, or just like how we humans usually do. So like you learn maths at school. What they teach you is like a bunch of equations and a bunch of arithmetics and then ways to solve problems, and then you go out in the real world and you can solve all kinds of different problems using the knowledge that you acquired in school. As for deep learning, it's actually very similar. The goal is very similar to machine learning, but the thing about deep learning is that the models are way more complex. So in machine learning, usually we still rely on humans to help figure out what are the most important things that the machine need to pay attention to. Meanwhile, for deep learning, we expect the machine to not only try to figure out the pattern and what we call modeling, but also to for its own, read the data, understand it by its own, like figure out what are the important things that it needs to remember, what are the important things that will help it make the predictions or make the right insights. Now let's talk about why do we need AI in health. So according to a study from Reimagining Global Health Through Artificial Intelligence, which is the roadmap to AI maturity by BBCom Communications, actually what they found was that we have health worker shortage. Especially as in Africa, we we've suffered from this a lot. Like you might find like you might find a couple, like let's say for example 4 specialists in a certain area. Let's say for example eye diseases, you will find 4 specialists in the whole country. And this problem is actually not just in Africa, but also in several other countries. Like most countries actually suffer from the same problem. So we have 50% of countries have less than 1 doctor for 1,000 people. So shortage of healthcare workers. Now we have what we call premature death, and it's at 90%. That's caused by COVID-19, climate change, pollution, antimicrobial resistance, anything that's actually unusual that pops up and happen and affects us, unusually. Now we have what we call the lack of access. So we have like 734 million people that lack access to essential health essential health services. And I'm sure as in Africa, we understand this very well. Why? Simply because like some people are very far, like out of the urban areas. So they, like our government doesn't really have enough funds to cover the whole country, so they only cover major cities. So if you want to get, if you have some kind of disease and you're like in a rural area, it will be very difficult for you to find a doctor locally, so you would need to, move out to the city or something like that. And lots of people die along the way, especially if it's something bad. And obviously, with challenges, there come opportunities, right? So, what we see is that the global healthcare spending, which means in the future, sadly, that's not really something I would say that is very positive for human beings, is that we will be spending way more on healthcare than we were before. And that's not really, that's not really very surprising, especially looking at the food that we are eating every day, and like the quality of air, the quality of living, the stress we go through. So the thing is that in 2020, the healthcare, the healthcare, let's call it business, but it's market. The healthcare business was actually priced at 10 USD trillions, but in 2040, which means in the next, well, 20, approximately 20 years or so, obviously less, it will be priced at 20 trillion USD. That's a huge number. So AI health use cases. So where are the areas, or what are the things that AI can help with? So the first thing that AI can help with is what we call population health. So how can AI help us, with population health? Sorry. So what it can do is help us target public health interventions through predictive analytics. Let me give you a very brief example. So with COVID-19, actually, I'm not sure if you know this or not, but it was known that that something like COVID-19 was happening around way before it actually happened, simply because I don't remember the exact company, but I heard it was Microsoft. They had like some kind of AI and data analytics running around, picking up from our social interactions that some kind of strange things were starting to happen around some certain areas. So yes, but that is obviously thanks to big data and AI that we could pick up signs of emerging diseases. So this is something that it could help us a lot with. So preclinical research and clinical trials. So how can it help us in this kind of setting? So I'm not sure if you know this or not, but for example, when COVID-19 happened, we had a lot of issues of coming up with what we call a vaccine, right? Something to fight off COVID-19. But we actually came up with the vaccines way faster than we did in all the previous years, simply because, well, one, all the research facilities were working around the world to find, the actual medicine to help us with that. But not only that, it is also because we use the AI to speed up the drug discovery process. What does that even mean? That means that instead of us just humans trying several combinations, so let's say for example every researcher can try 5, AI can try 100 per researcher or per research facility. And that's a huge number. Like, it gives us way more possibilities, and it shortens the time it takes to actually find the right combination. Now, when it comes to clinical care pathways, so what we can do in this case is integrate AI tools into new and existing clinical workflows. So perhaps we can include it in radiology. So for example, in the radiology clinical workflow. So when a patient gets their imaging, let's say for example a chest X-ray or something like that. So instead of it going directly to the radiologist, the person who is supposed to read the the scan. What it can do is that it can be run through an AI process that will help spot the anomalies and highlight them for the radiolog, so that when it gets to the radiolog, instead of taking, for example, 8 to 10 minutes, which is actually the average time they take to read X-ray scans or any kind of scan, it can take them less. Let's say, for example, 1 to 2 minutes, and then they can obviously speed up the process, and this will help us save people that are in critical states, especially when it comes to brain hemorrhages, which I which are time critic. So there is also patient-facing solutions. That means interacting directly with patients, providing like non-clinical therapies, information, and advice. So one of the things we do suffer from, and I'm not sure if it's the truth also for the area you guys are in, but in Africa mostly we do face a huge issue with information. When you want to get some kind of information, God knows how much you need to actually go through to get very simple information that sometimes, like abroad, you might get like on a simple click. But we do struggle to get information simply because it's not centralized. We can't access it, and like very few people know it sometimes. So one of the things we can do is gather all the information we have, spread it, and like make it like intelligent. Like how you answer the client can be way more intelligent depending on their situations, context, time, and a lot of parameters that AI can actually help us with. So optimization of health operations, like optimizing backend processes in healthcare. So one of the processes that very interestingly actually being optimized these days using AI, through, for example, Genentech healthcare, and then like there are GE healthcare. There are like lots of great companies using AI in their MRI scans. So, for example, instead of taking 1 hour to actually get the MRI scan, through AI, we can, like kind of half that time to 30 minutes so that it can render. And that means instead of having the patient stuck in that MRI for 2 hours, you might just have it stuck there in 1 hour or even less, which is very helpful because, being stuck in an MRI isn't fun. So, real world examples. So these are like the few examples I found on the internet. And these examples actually have already been tested and have been used for a couple of trials already. So, we can say they can be trusted. So one of the great applications I've found is something called HeartFlow. So it's actually a non-invasive diagnostic test that helps physicians identify the impact that blockages have on blood flow to the heart. Let me explain it to you more in detail. So usually when you have a heart problem, the first signs show up along these beautiful branches that you see. These are the veins that transfers the blood to our whole body. And normally one of the issues we have is that one of these beautiful, what we call valves, actually sometimes they get like their blood gets stuck in them because they tine or they're tired out. There are lots of reasons why this happens, and usually it's very difficult for clinicians or even like doctors to find it out through imaging, especially if we are going to use simple imaging like CT scans, for example. It's very difficult to find if you don't have a way to assist you, for a higher resolution, for a better understanding. So usually what they would need is a couple of tests. So they would need like a couple of CT scans, MRIs, and then it's only after a couple of tries that they would figure out there is a problem. That is obviously if they don't have the intuition to search for a certain specific issue from the symptoms you have. So what AI helps do is like it through the CT scans that you already do, it's kind of like to figure out what kind of issues you have by drawing your heart and all the valves that where the blood can flow. So this thing has like one of the things I said like it helps with is that it helps fill in the gaps by providing functional information. That means like how are the valves are, like how thin, how wide they are, and then like they also like show you how the blood flows usually. So it's like it traces the whole information. It's like it gives you a 3D kind of working on how your heart and what is happening in your body is actually, you know, looks like. So it's the highest diagnostic performance when compared with, you know, the normal typical tests that we have currently. It actually has long-term outcomes out to 5 years, which is very impressive. It is a non-invasive test. That means they don't need to fill you with tubs or, you know, because usually there is another way to figure out, you know, the issues that you have, and it does include a tub going inside your body. And then it reduces obviously costs, tests, and waiting time, simply because instead of taking 10 tests, they might take, like, for example, only one or two and have the AI figure out what is happening. Sorry. So there is another solution that I really like, and I actually tried it. I definitely invite you to try this kind of AI, you know, tools, just so you get the feeling of how it works, and perhaps you can get inspired to, you know, build something of your own. So there is something called Buoy Health. It's actually an AI-driven online symptom checker, and it tries solutions. So what does it do exactly? So what it does is that it's actually a chatbot. It's like a chatbot, as you can see from like the picture I have on my right. I'm not sure what's if it's your left or something, but on my right, the picture that you see. So what you do is that it's like you're conversing with the chatbot, and you're like it tells you, you know, it tries to understand what you have through the symptoms by asking you questions, and then at the end it gives you like the possible, you know, a possible let's say diseases or like symptoms you might diseases or, you know, like possible possible stuffs that we might be actually suffering from. Is because it doesn't only handle the usual diseases, it also has mental, you know, might like mental diseases too. So I'm not sure we can call all of them diseases. That's why I'm actually hesitating. So what it does is, like I told you, is ask you a couple of questions, and then like at the end it will give you a couple of suggestions. So it tells you, like, according to all the things that you have been selecting, the highest chance you have this, and then it gives you like, it's like a five suggestions thing. But like from what I tried, it is very accurate, you know, with the stuff. Like, it's a very good diagnostic tool. And what I really like about it is that actually, well, that is obviously for people internationally, not really for us in Africa, is that it gives you not only, you know, what you might suffer from, but it also gives you suggestions on, you know, like doctors and then like hospitals you can, you know, get checked in, hospitals that actually have a very good like clinicians or physicians that can help you with that issue. And it also helps you figure out if whatever you have is covered by your insurance or not, which is usually very helpful. Okay, apologies. So as you can see, it's like it first tries to figure out what is going on with you, and then tries to, you know, fix it. If it's something that's obviously fixable, let's say for example I'm not sure, like you hit your head or you hit your leg or something, and it's something, you know, it can provide you first aid stuff. It will, you know, highlight this first aid, and then it tells you if whatever you have is covered by your insurance. So this is like the last tool I'll be introducing, which is called DermAssist. So DermAssist is a Google tool that actually scans. Through it you can scan your skin and figure out what you have. So sometimes you might have, hopefully not never, some kind of skin cancer, or otherwise you might have some, you know, some kind of buttons that usually pop up due to hormones and all of that. It actually tries to figure all of these out by obviously you scanning your hand. Then when you scan it, it gives you the symptoms that, you know, it has like extracted from the image, the contagiousness, like whatever you have, is it contagious or not, the severity of your disease or what you have, the treatment if it's available, and then the duration, like how much it can stay or not, and then like how common it is. So it has been trained on 288 skin, hair, and nail conditions, which is awesome. And it looks for signs of various skin conditions using 3 pictures. So you need to provide it with 3 pictures along with informations, and then it gives you like results within a minute, which is obviously, as always, providing a couple of suggestions. So if you ever have the chance, I advise you to check out the AI playbook by Google. They have a great set of guidelines on how you can program and then expose, or design your AI applications, or solutions, so that it can be easier to understand by your users. That might mean, just normal users, patients, that might mean doctors, that might mean, you know general people that don't understand how AI works. And usually in one of these suggestions there is always what we call a couple of suggestions. So for example, you would have 5 suggestions or 3 suggestions, depending on obviously the probability that you get from the AI model prediction. Now let's check out the technical and ethical challenges. So as always, when there is opportunity, there are challenges. Life. So the thing, usually the most concerning questions are actually, asked, especially from healthcare workers, are actually about data. So most of them are going to be about data. Who is going to take responsibility? Now, there's data and there is who is going to take responsibility. That means ethical data use, regulations, privacy and security, accountability. And then is whatever you are actually developing, is it is it useful? Like, does it help them, or is this just a shiny tool that you just developed that is really useless? Like, it's not really helping them as doctors. That's what they call clinical utility. And then there is bias. Like, is this only trained to is this only trained like for white people? Is this only trained for black people? Is this only trained for perhaps Asians? So because like if it's trained on only one population, it's obviously going to be biased towards the other population. That's a normal thing, right? It has nothing to do with AI being with AI being racist, or some has some racism stuff, but it's actually all about the data that you provided to your model. So we need to know these things. And obviously, one of the things they worry about is what we call transparency and explainability. So when your model is giving them their predictions, they want to know how this model came up with this prediction. Why? So they know if it's logical, if it's logically, if it has some kind of logic, like the choice it's made, is it logical? Is it just because perhaps there is some kind of white mark in the background, and then all the people that have that disease have like that white mark, and that white mark might just be a problem with the scan that was used. That is why they want to understand the process of how your model works and how it came up with that decision, which is under explainability and obviously under transparency as well. Transparency is when you are very clear with the people, like that you tell them when does your model fails, when does it succeed, and when you should actually still not trust it. Like, it means sometimes it might fail, sometimes it might succeed. So all the loopholes and caveats. And then there is the privacy and security. Obviously everyone worries about their data being leaked, and especially now that the hackers are getting smarter and smarter as well. So AI models are hackable as well. So in conclusion, as I said before, we have opportunities and we have challenges. So the main opportunities are that we have a huge market. There is money. So it means we do need to, provide as many tools as we can to help us and other fellow humans fight off the diseases that will most surely arise in the future. There is a need because we lack doctors, and as I said, we will be having way more patients than we had before. And then there is the constant development of intelligent algorithms and computing resources. Thanks to a lot of stuff's happening in biotechnology and lots of tools coming up that are less intrusive, a lot of scientific breakthroughs have been made, to understand how our brain works, how our whole body actually works in a more deeply than we understood before. And a lot of things had actually been, you know, have been labeled as not working anymore or not true anymore. So for AI challenges, well, there is challenges in implementation. Well, when it comes to implementation, there are computing resources challenges. There are data. We don't have data. Sometimes the data that we have is very, very bad. Like the quality is, trash. So there is also like accountability. That means who's going to be responsible if that AI model makes a mistake. And then there is fairness. Everyone has to have the right to access those healthcare resources, no matter if they have AI or not. So that's why actually I like to say technology, or actually anything at all, is at the service of humanity if we make it so. So it's a tool, or anything is only going to serve you if you make sure that it is serving you and not actually working against you. That means you need to, keep in mind all the loopholes, and make sure that you have strong testing, you know, mechanisms put in place. So I have actually reached out the end of my talk, and I look forward to your questions. And also, I would really love to know what you feel about having AI, being perhaps your future doctor, or helping your doctor figure out what you have.
Hi. Thank you very much for great session. Thank you, Sarah. And you
Awesome.
have a lot of question for you.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. You have a first question. I want to start. Obe Ngesa. Hi, Sarah. What kind of data is used to do healthful?
Heart flow. So, to my understanding, what they based themselves on was using CT scans. So they used computed tomography, so they can figure out, like, because that's what they wanted. But they also used other scan tools, so they can you know like validate the model. It's because even professionals, they can't see these things. They can't see what is happening in your house or why it's not working. So they still need to do tests to make sure they validate what the AI came up with. I invite you to check out their research papers. They have actually, they have gotten 500 research paper out to actually make this work. So if you
Yeah,
have time, check it out.
yeah, that's right. Second question from Kulbali Raymond.
Mhm.
He said that only
No, 200.
2080 skin,
So
200, oh, sorry, 280 skin. It's really accurate.
it's skin, hair, and like all the things related to the conditions. So is it really accurate? So if you ask Google, they will tell you, don't use it, like, don't rely on it solely. It's important that you go check out with a doctor, simply because, like you say, they can't cover all the globe, obviously. So they mostly, I am sure, have trained it on, like, American data sets, and at most, European data sets. So it might fail. Actually, in all of healthcare data, even research, if you check out research papers or any kind of trial, even like the meds that we are using, some of them, they don't cover everyone. Like sometimes they work perfectly well on, like, for example, US people and Europeans, or some regions, but they, for example, fail to work on Africans because we don't have the same constitution. So is it accurate?
That's
It's
right. That's great.
the data it was
Um,
trained on.
yeah. Kimana Mizago say good session. Thanks.
Thank you, Kimana.
We have another question from
Mhm.
Oben. He said that have you a use case of drug optimization by AI?
So I have never worked on drug discovery, but drug optimization or drug discovery in general, because that's what it is called. That's the huge field. They have had a lot of advances. I'm not sure if you heard about AlphaGo. AlphaGo helped them a lot, to reduce the time needed to figure out what kind of drugs to test. I invite you to check out DeepMind's work. There's also InstaDeep's work. They are working on this field. So check out what they're working on and how they are, revolutionizing the field. We can't hear you. Or I can't hear you. Oh, I still can't hear you. Sorry. I'm not sure if it's just me. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I
Now
put
I
in
can
this.
hear
I put in the chat InstaDeep's links, and I'm looking for InstaDeep.
you. Yeah,
I mean
let me
DeepMind and InstaDeep.
yeah, here you go.
You can
InstaDeep.
add the link also if you want.
Here's InstaDeep.
Yeah, that's right. I have, yeah, yeah, InstaDeep. Let's put tip. Um, yeah. I have another question from Kulbali Raymond.
Mhm.
Uh, don't you think suppose AI encourage self-medication, which can be like jeopardizing public health?
Yes, it is jeopardizing public health, but if you don't even have a doctor in the first place, there's nothing that is going to jeopardize. It's better having something than having
That's right.
nothing, right? And
That's right.
we humans need to remember we have our brains. So if something feels fishy, you need to test it out, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if for example you try something and it seems to give you bad, bad symptoms, like like you have a stomach ache or something, figure out that you choose the wrong the wrong things to try.
That's right. No, so I have a question. Don't take what is your question? If AI encourage self-medication and AI don't encourage self-medication, so please refer always to doctor
Yes.
for anything. That's right.
I want to
Hey,
I want to
let's
say
go. Let's
something
go. Wait.
about this. So Raymond, we I'm not sure how it is like in your country, but in Morocco we actually have a lot of people taking meds without having to go to the doctor. They just they figure out what they feel like. They always have some kind of medication to tell you
Yeah.
to try.
That's the same thing here. Some people doesn't don't go to hospital. They take by yourself medication and don't talk to doctor. So when uh, you have a sick and is they have one word I am malaria. So they take they take immediately the medication and you have doctor everywhere. And I say they say that I have already this one, so I take this medication for is good for me. So take the same medication for you. So some people take auto medication. And let's go. You have another question. How do they train those AI? Is there any pre-training model you can train on Africa data?
if you have African data, there are lots of pre-trained models, available. You can just check in them in GitHub, Kaggle, Google, anything you can think about. You can find pre-trained models available. But the ones that really matter and are tested are not available. You need to ask researchers. Like try to email researchers to if you want something serious, something that's working. That's not just a toy.
Yeah, yeah. About your question, the same in Cote d'Ivoire, that you talk about automedication
Yeah,
from
I mean,
Morocco.
I'm sure we Africans do that a lot.
Ah, that's right. You have no question yet, no more question, and I think you have done with the session. Thank you very much, Sarah.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much,
Thank
and
you very much for inviting me.
you're welcome. And thank you very much for people to join us. And oh,
We have a question.
you have any question? How to start learning deep learning?
So my favorite course is actually Udacity's Introduction to Deep Learning or the Deep Learning Nano Degree. That's my favorite course. But if you want to start with something that is free, check out Kaggle Learn and even like TFUG chapters. They do organize a lot of events where they actually explain these concepts. But check out Kaggle Learn, check out like the deep learning.ai courses too. There are lots of amazing resources out there. But my favorite is like deep learning nano degree from Udacity.
Yeah, I put the link in the chat
Thank
for him. Nano degree.
Yeah, and
Uh,
let me show you the Kaggle Learn. Kaggle
yeah.
Learn is great too. Have you tried it?
What?
Have you tried the Kaggle Learn?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
also
Yeah, it is good. Actually, you have launched the ML study jumps on Kaggle for community. Kaggle is a good way to learn deep learning also. So
Yeah.
I think,
It's awesome actually because like it teaches you, like it teaches you in a practical way. You don't just get teach
yeah,
the theory; it teaches you as well, how to
yeah,
code.
more practice. That's right.
Yeah, and TensorFlow has great documentation, guys. Check out their documentation. Like all the
Yeah,
codes they provide is very simple to use and straightforward. And
yeah,
you only need Colab, so you're safe.
yeah. Last, want to show. Say I have impression. That's mind. Africa is too late in on AI users a lot to do to
Yeah. Let me tell you something interesting. Don't wait for the government to do the work for you. If you want AI to come to Africa, it's time for startups and like, non-governmental entities to help bring AI to the table. That means like professors, you guys, the people that are interested in AI, to bring it here. Like try your best to collect data, urge people to start exploring it, teach people AI. Like for example, ChatGPT. I think like most than most than half of Africa doesn't even know what ChatGPT is or how to use it, right?
yeah.
So
That's right.
help people learn about these things. Teach them how to use them.
Thank you very
People
much
interested,
for.
because the more people interested, the more they will learn, the more they will try the more they will want it, and the more they will try to get it, here as much as possible.
Thank you very much for the best conclusion of this session. Thank you, everyone, to join us. Kurubali, Louis, Oben Gesson, and Chimada Mizago, for everyone. Thank you very much. And thank you to Sarah. And I think we invite you in Cote d'Ivoire one day to attend this our event like DevFest or IEO, something
Sure,
like
sure,
that.
sure.
I think it is
Just
a good idea.
just let me know early so I can, so I can plan it. Because if you let me know at the, if you let me know near the event, you will most likely find me, doing something that day. So it's better if you, let me know early so I can book you.
Okay, thanks you. That's right. TensorFlow user group, we should presentation, please. Do you have any permission to have your presentation, Sarah?
Well, it's not really something that you can find on the internet, but like they will be having the recording of this, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's they can just, check it out. It's not everything's already available in the internet.
No, okay, that's right. TensorFlow user group localization in Abidjan. You can find TensorFlow user group in Cocody, Rivera Bonume, just after Express Area. Just you have our office after this place, Cocody, Rivera Bonume after Express Area. You can find our office. So you have a partnership with Future Africa AI, and you can work with TensorFlow user group if you want to find us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sarah, again. Thank you, Oben. Thank you, Kulubali. And hope to see you soon in another activity or physically something like that. Thank
Sure.
you very much.
Thanks a lot, guys. It was nice, it was nice doing the presentation for you.
Thank you very much. Merci à tous et bye bye.